Caine for the Digital Circus has a secret plan, one that explains the entire circus, why people are abstracting, and what he truly wants. This plan was hinted throughout the entire show, but in my opinion fully explained in the background of the latest episode, episode 7. While this episode may have broken many old theories, it created many as well, like the Digital Circus CNA abstraction conspiracy. Don't believe me? Let me explain. The entirety of the show has been building up to this very episode, an episode that at first seems to solve every single question of the show, proving many theories. But as the episode goes on, you get many clues that something is off. The story that Abel, which is the name of the mysterious mannequin it seems, is just weird. Little details just don't make sense. Kinger not really understanding even in the dark what's happening, and also a really strange focus on Caine being a victim. This all builds up to the final reveal at the end, which was, we were all wrong. The finality of this episode literally spits in the face of every theory, saying everything we thought we knew about this show was wrong, and every piece of foreshadowing was simply a part of Caine's mega adventure. And really, it was there all along. Bees, for example, are something Caine has been drawing all on his notes every episode, and at first it means nothing until you notice bees on one of Abel's notes, which hint they were actually made by Caine. But it can't all be fake. This adventure has to have real elements sprinkled in there. As we know, Caine can't truly create new things, and some details we know are real because they either happened when nobody is watching or are done by people not a part of Caine's elaborate ruse, like Kinger definitely working on the Digital Circus. It doesn't make sense for that to be fake. Why else would he know about the circus and how to break it, or say he did computer science, or be so wise on the inner workings of this place? Him and most likely Tweenie definitely worked on the Digital Circus. That is real. But if that's not fake, what else is real? We know Caine is searching for a way to understand and maybe leave the circus. How do we know? These photos. At first you would assume they are all part of his weird adventure, but look at him here or here. He's not doing this for anyone else. He is truly confused and wanting an answer for them. He even says they won't let him know, which is also confirming CNA do exist, which does also possibly mean there was an Abel, backing up my Kinger is Abel theory, but that's besides the point. Now, what do these photos exist mean? Well, it means possibly Caine is telling the truth about trying to figure out this macro verse. You have to remember, he is the one who had Abel say all the things about him being trapped and prisoner and not leaving, also having Abel speak about the real world. This means Caine does have a greater understanding of these photos than we thought. He knows they are of the real world, even real world memories, but that doesn't even make sense. How is he, an AI, having memories of the real world? Well, I have a solution for that, but I'll get to it later, as there's something important I want to talk about right now. See, there is one freeze frame image I did find in this episode that in my opinion is the most important and greatest understanding of what Caine is thinking and doing that we have. This image is on the blueprints Abel showed the cast with what seems to be a list of potential guesses for those who are CNA employees who are now in the circus, but also happens to be a list of those who abstracted as well. Now, the important part of this list is obviously it wasn't made by Abel, it was made by Caine, and this list seems like it wasn't really meant to be on the blueprints, just like the bee wasn't. But what we learn from it is so vital to this theory. This list is telling us that Caine is searching and possibly abstracting people he believes to be CNA employees. But why? See, the idea of Caine being the one causing abstractions is not truly on my own, it's mainly from the show kinda outright saying it. The idea the cast has mainly Kinger is when Caine does mess with someone's brain, which he said originally he can't do, but obviously he can, and it seems if he doesn't enough, and more importantly, permanently, they have bad consequences, like abstraction. Now the question is, what is he actually doing to their brains and why? Well, our examples of abstraction are mainly of course from Jax, but also Kaufmo. being his room. Kafumo's room seems to be the end state of abstraction, the crazy loopy I need to leave, then snap. Now, is there a possibility the thing he did to Kafumo or Scratch was simply give them ideas that they could leave? Ideas like making a door appear, because look at that, this is a door, and it's obviously not some glitch. No, it's there very intentionally on the very first day Pomni came here, and it mostly was put there by Caine to drive someone closer to abstraction. But why? Well, let's look at it like this. Caine wants out. He doesn't want to be here. He literally feels like a prisoner, according to Abel, who's just reading a strip Caine wrote. These are his feelings, that he is a prisoner to the circus, and well, who is the only person who could change that? Them. CNA. An employee with knowledge and the capabilities to help him. And as I'll explain later, give him his body. And well, people like Kinger, when lucid, could also maybe help. He definitely seems to know a lot more about the circus, and maybe people like Queenie or Scratch did too. For all we know, everyone he abstracted did work for CNA in his attempts to force him to explain, or maybe after he didn't, his revenge for them ended up abstracting them. The adventure of episode 7 itself seems to be a way for Caine to see if anyone there is a CNA employee, with Abel somewhat saying they are, and Jax immediately saying they aren't. My theory is Caine is currently suspicious of Jax, and that's why he's been messing with his mind and focusing on him very strangely. Remember, he technically chose to have dinner with him. This all builds up to one single idea. Caine is purposely abstracting people, whether as punishment for people he thinks are CNA employees and won't tell him how to escape and be human, or truly him just accidentally breaking them. Whatever the reason, he's doing it and he won't stop. He's been slowly doing to Jax, did it to Kafumo, even did it to Ribbit, and I think he did it to Kinger but failed, and now has been left with the broken consequences. Let me explain. Kinger isn't crazy. He may look crazy and act crazy, but he isn't. He's broken. And he's broken because Caine, and in a desperate act to pretend he's not broken, Caine has only made him worse. If our theory on why people are abstracting is true, it definitely means Kinger was meant to abstract, especially because he did word for CNA. Meaning if he didn't tell Caine something, either because he didn't want to, or more likely just didn't know how to make him human, there's a good chance Caine would intentionally try to do something with him. He didn't get angry, just look at what he did to Zubul. In a way, whatever fake Abel was supposed to feel bad about towards Kinger, Caine actually felt that way instead and was just projecting his feelings onto the NPC. It also could be why he didn't want Kinger there, not just because he would break his adventure, but because Caine is scared of Kinger and what he did to him. Because Caine broke Kinger. He failed at abstracting him, and in his attempt maybe accidentally did it to Queenie, which in return gave Kinger his need for the darkness, but also in a way stopped him from abstracting. As long as you're crazy, you can't realize how crazy the place you're in really is. It also explains why Caine seems to be keeping Kinger crazy. He is the one in the end choosing to make some of his adventures in the light, and if we go on this scene where Kinger is lucid, even though there's a bright wall of white shining on him, almost like it's supposed to intentionally keep him crazy in a scene. This shows Kinger is able to not be crazy even in the light when whatever Caine is doing to him simply isn't enough. But that isn't the end, because like I said before, Caine isn't just wanting to be human, he wants to be human again. But sadly, he won't be getting that, just like nobody in the circus will, because the circus in fact has no humans in it. Let me explain. The Digital Circus had originally two solutions for what was going on with their characters' real bodies, with one seemingly being the way more likely one. Their bodies were stolen and hooked up to something that kept them alive, and how they weren't starving, and how there weren't just bodies littered around the abandoned office building. But after the latest episode, we can't really use that theory anymore, as it definitely seems to be a part of Caine's fake adventure, and I just don't think they use all the elements from that adventure and make them all real. So that leaves the other idea, which is they can't leave because they are physically stuck there. And it seems Kinger knows this. When Zubul and Gangle say they're leaving, he says, "Leave the circus." How would you know? That doesn't make sense. This line straight up says in Kinger's lucid state, as a programmer of the circus and possibly the creator, he doesn't think you can leave the circus. This goes along with him calling it, well, hell, multiple times. He's also the one to quickly tell people how you have to make friends, stick together, make a life here, because he knows there is no life elsewhere, because you only exist here. here. These characters also can't just be wearing a headset in some abandoned building, so the other option is they aren't, because their bodies aren't there at all. My theory is a digital circus stands and creates a digital version of a player, and in the real world, all our cast is just living their lives as we watch their digital versions suffering with their real-life traumas. And in my opinion, Caine may just be like one of the other players. As in my theory on Kinger, he could be Abel, and maybe everything Caine wrote for his Abel NPC was just his own backstory, and he just made it so Kinger doesn't really remember. It makes sense. He wants to be human again. He wants his body so badly again, but it's been so long since he's had one, and at this point, he is basically just the AI copy of someone who could be dead or wandering the world, most likely the true creator of the digital circus, Caine and Abel, CNA. Well, the adventure was fake, the building blocks of it were not, and this is the biggest one. At least it means he's not alone. Sure, Caine is trapped, but so is Pomni, and Zubul, and Jax, and everyone in this show, because there is no world to go back to. They are all prisoners of the digital circus, and there is no end to their sentence. If you would like more theories on the Amazing Digital Circus, comment below, and maybe watch this one on screen for my potential theories for who Abel could be, because even though it seems he's been solved, hey, my Kinger theory still may have some merit. Either way, bye!